Hi Homeworthy, I'm Kemp.
And I'm Kevin.
And welcome back to our home for the holidays in Brazil, Indiana.
This Christmas, Homeworthy invites you into a season of wonder. Over the next 25 days, we're stepping into homes that sparkle with holiday cheer, where garlands tumble from mantles, ornaments hang like tiny treasures, and every corner comes alive with joy, merriment, and the spirit of the season.
And I don't know how many ornaments are on the tree. Last year I got 1,400 on, and they were made all over the world. There were ones made in America, Poland, Italy, Japan, just a wide variety, and I love them all.
We'll visit homes where traditions are cherished, where beauty is made by hand, and where rituals become memories that last a lifetime.
We make about 400 of these rolls every year, and on Christmas Eve, our family delivers them to certain families within the area, and our kids get to participate in choosing who gets them.
From quiet moments by the fire to happy gatherings around the table, we're celebrating the way the holidays transform our spaces and fill them with magic.
We do quite a dressy table because it's Christmas and it's a party and you want it to feel special, but you also, it's nice to make the table a little bit kind of imperfect, a little bit higgledy-piggledy. I want people to feel at a party in my home as if they're kind of wearing a ball gown but going barefoot. You know, it's that kind of high-low moment, the kind of specialness, but also the coziness of being really comfortable.
So pour something warm, settle in, and join us for Homeworthy's 25 Days of Christmas, a season-long celebration of holiday magic. To watch Homeworthy's entire Christmas collection ad-free, visit homeworthyplus.com or scan the QR code on screen. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Kemp Harper. I work in merchandising.
Hi, I'm Kevin Boling, and I'm a realtor, and you're back in our home in Brazil, Indiana.
So you guys have been in our home before, but this time we're going to take you around and show you how we set it up and entertain for the holiday season. So in 2016, our Colonial Revival came on the market, and I think that we bought it the first or second day that it went on the market. And we had just gone into the backyard, and it sits on about an acre in the middle of a small town, and it's so mature that it doesn't feel like you're in the middle of town. And I didn't need to see the inside. I just knew that we wanted to call this home. And when we walked into the inside for the very first time, you could almost imagine this home at the holiday time, like garland going up the stairs, the fireplace ablaze. It feels very nostalgic, American, very Home Alone feeling. And so decorating it for the holidays and entertaining here is one of our favorite moments to share here. We usually start the Christmas decoration after Thanksgiving every year. This year we did it a little bit earlier. And for me, I don't like to do the same thing year to year. I always know that I want it to feel like classic Christmas. Timeless feeling, very nostalgic feeling, nothing too trendy, but just really leaning into the feeling of our home and kind of creating like a Christmas that I think we would have wanted when we were younger. Welcome to our foyer for the holidays this year. One thing that I love about our home is this central staircase. I think that we always wanted an old home that you would walk into a big foyer that would open up to other rooms, and I love how grand it feels when you walk into it. So of course, in keeping with that, I wanted the holiday decor to just really make a statement when you walk in. Lots of like fresh greens all the way up the stairs, some live cedar that's also mixed into some artificial with this little cedar and juniper berries and things. I think is really sweet when you walk in. And I also wanted to keep it very neutral. So I also did like satin ribbons in this really pretty like dark chocolate brown color this year that I thought was really nice. And I also like a warm glow light that goes up the stairs with those as well. And then also in the foyer, we have this really sweet portrait of this gentleman over here. And I also, in keeping with the fresh greens and stuff, I did some cedar in this little wreath moment with a hurricane. It's always a challenge for me to style this table. I don't know what it is, but I always like try to take a lot of time because I think that your approach when you walk in, that this should be its whole moment and very inviting and welcoming. So in keeping with the garland that goes up the staircase, we also mixed in some fresh greens. And then another favorite thing that I like to do is take some dried florals from the craft store and kind of shuffle those into the greenery as well to give it a lot of dimension. And then we have a lot of oil portraits throughout the home. Most of them are like a gentleman or something. And I love it draped with the pine garland as well. I think it makes a real statement. And then just a simple glass hurricane that I found when I was thrifting one day, and I think it looks really nice. I also love it in these monotone colors, lots of beiges and browns and just green. So when you walk into our front door, I love a little landing space, and I think that this is really sweet. And so I just found this Chippendale mirror the other day, and I knew that I wanted to tassel greens coming out the top of it to make it feel very festive for the holiday. And then another thing that I found thrifting the other day is this like Tiffany bamboo bowl for about 20 bucks. And I thought that that was really sharp there with just some oranges and some fresh greens tucked in when you walk in. I think it feels very like old-fashioned holiday. I think that for me, the holidays were always, I was very inspired by both of my grandmothers. My grandma Patricia, whenever we would go over for the holidays, she would make homemade noodles for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and the table would just be full of her noodles and flour, and I would sit there and just eat them raw at the table, and she would let me do that. And then my other grandma, my grandma Ruth Ann, at Christmas time, she would put together all the grandkids their own stocking, a candy box with all of our favorites, and then she just would go above and beyond with the gift giving. And to me, that's kind of the way that I want to share Christmas and the holidays with my friends and family. It's just that feeling that I had being with both my grandmothers.
For me, Christmas growing up was really all about family, driving around town to look at the Christmas lights that people would put up all over town, and Christmas in the park. I also have a lot of memories of spending Christmas with my grandma and cooking together in the kitchen. And so this year, you know, we made a lot of Christmas cookies, and, you know, that really just brought back a lot of childhood memories for me. Also, I love putting up the tree, going and cutting the tree down, and putting the tree up, as well as decorating the tree. Really brings back a lot of memories, as well as decorating and putting up the lights outside. I also really, really love outdoor lighting. I think it's such a fun part of Christmas during a really dark time of year when the sun sets so early.
And now I'm gonna take you guys into our formal living room that's decked out for the holidays. So the kitchen is probably the hub of our home, but I would say that the living room is the heart. And this is the best place to be, cozied up here by the fireplace. And we intentionally flanked these sofas here that you could really enjoy the fireplace. And this year, as far as decoration, I did this cedar garland that I swagged across the fireplace. And then I flanked this oil portrait with these brass elk candelabras that my best friend Kelly got me for my 30th birthday this year. And I love them with beeswax candle sticks in them. And I just think it looks so cozy. I think your approach, seeing this fireplace all lit up for Christmas time, is just really sweet. And then on the coffee table here, my Martha holiday books that I've been referencing, and I've been filling them with tabs to sift through. They're just full of endless inspiration. I think that this is probably like early 2000s. And then also her cookie book we've been referencing for our cookie bar out in our bar room. And it's just fun to sit here and sift through coffee table books that's just full of endless inspiration. One thing that we like to do year to year for Christmas is to go to the tree farm and cut down a tree. And this is a blue spruce, which I think is probably my favorite variety of tree. I love it. It just feels so full. I love the color. And we did a deal with Balsam Hill last Christmas, and we did all these ornaments with them. And growing up, we also did a lot of bird elements in our Christmas tree. So in keeping with that, the tree is full of birds, pops of red. I love these old-fashioned little clip-on candlesticks. I think feels very like nostalgic. And then just pops of red and gold and a little bit of glitter, but not too much. and I think it feels super cozy. And then we also, along the base of the tree, I love just like a classic plaid that we used for our wrapping this year, and then we tied in the ribbon on the tree with the ribbon on the gifts as well. My grandma growing up also used to take like little toys, stuffed bears and things, and mix them and sit them on top of our gifts around her tree. So I put this little brass deer at the bottom there. Sort of, it's just something that I remember growing up, and so I like to kind of intermingle those things along the base. And now we're going to take you into one of our favorite rooms in the house, the library. So welcome to our library. Talking about a Ralph Lauren Christmas, I think that this is the perfect setup to do that theme. I feel like we have the total, like this room is just the right vibe to carry out that kind of aesthetic. And so I did this swag of cedar garland from each corner to the center to this chandelier. I love this crystal chandelier centered in this room. And for holiday time, we talked about sifting people throughout the home. This is one of those areas where I feel like this is the perfect room to implement a champagne tower. I think it's one of the most fun things to do. It's like the best party trick ever. And it's so easy to do. And once you buy it one time, you can set it up again and again and again. And then you just have to buy a couple bottles of champagne to fill it. I set up on this old plant stand back here. I set up with cranberries and oranges in this old silver antique bucket. With the champagne, and I just love how that looks when you walk in. It's so simple and easy to do, and it looks beautiful when you enter the room. So for a tower this size, I start with this copper tray that has a lip all the way around because it gets a little messy and you don't want it to overflow onto your furniture. And then when I stack my coupe glasses, they have to be in line and touching for it to work effectively. And it's so fun to watch. So when you're filling this, start with your bottom glasses because they won't get completely filled when you start to waterfall it from the top. And this is so fun. You would want to bring in make sure you get your whole group of people in here to watch this happening in real time because that's part of the fun. And also, if you have a guest that wants to do it for everyone. Okay, so then once you fill your bottom row, then you're gonna start to do your waterfall from the top. All right, and you're just gonna keep filling, and then it'll start to overflow and fill all of your other glasses. And I just think that that's so beautiful. It's such a fun party trick. And the other thing to remember too is that you'll definitely want to have a stack of cocktail napkins to give your guests because this is really messy and you don't want to ruin your furniture throughout the house. And then the other thing I like to do is fill this little bucket with cranberries and oranges and then just use them just as a little garnish for every guest. It depends year to year, but this year I have so many Martha Stewart Christmas books and I went through old Martha Stewart Living magazines and her Christmas books, and I just laid them out on the counter with my bookmark tabs and was going through page for page, sort of referencing just to get some inspiration for or like a jumping off point for the whole aesthetic and vibe that we wanted to go for. I just think that there's so much inspiration from Martha, and then it gives you a detailed like how to get the look or we also did a bunch of Christmas cookies this year that we used her cookie cutters, and they also came out of one of her like 1990s Christmas books. And so that was the main inspiration this year or year to year. We're very like Martha influenced.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of fun to cook out of a cookbook as opposed to going online. So part of the process, right, is taking out old cookbooks that you pick up at the thrift store or an antique shop for a couple of bucks and spending some time looking through those cookbooks, finding recipes that kind of inspire you. That's a really fun part of the process.
We're really inspired by I would say books, whether it's inspiration for Christmas decorating or baking, probably like books from like the 90s, because that was like our childhood growing up. So we try to look and do those things because that's that sense of nostalgia to us, like wanting to do the things that we remember being little and kind of like creating our dream Christmas as adults and what we think Christmas should feel like. And now we're gonna show you how we set up our kitchen for the holidays. So now you're in our very small kitchen for Christmas, but that's okay because we make a small space work really hard. And I just like to make this space feel very cute this time of year. And this seems to be the hub of the home. Even though we try to usher people out of here, everyone ends up in this kitchen. And we've got people in every corner. So that's why we try to shuffle people around because there's other things to see and other places to spend time rather than standing in here. So for the kitchen this year, I just did simple cedar garlands with some dried oranges like up and around the sink. I think it's kind of fun to just take like old copper strainers and bowls and fill them with fruits. This is filled with grapefruit, and then I just put some sprigs of cedar in there. It still functions, so why not make it look a little bit more festive? Over here, so we'll do like little cake pedestals. Kevin made these madeleines, and those are always something that he does really well. And they look beautiful in this cake stand over here. And then other things like topping our range hood with a little more garland and dried oranges because that's your approach when you walk in and it just makes it feel super cozy. And then over here on our open shelving, typically this would house all of our everyday dishes, but come Christmas time, I want it to have a little bit like a pop of color and some fruit elements. So we put these pomegranates on these little cake pedestals and stuff, and I think it looks really sweet. And then even down here, so this is like the dog station where the dog food goes. But Kevin just sewed these little striped curtains to put on to make it feel a little bit more festive. And then I love these filled with like apples and pears. And typically, you know, we would use these items to make holiday pies, apple pies, and we just got a cider press too. So we might even make some homemade cider from apples and things. And anything that we don't use that is as a decoration goes out to our chickens in the chicken coop.
Like Kemp said, we have a really tight kitchen floor plan. So this is the area that we typically utilize for baking and rolling. Around the holidays, you'll find us in here rolling out pie dough and cutting out cookies with our cookie cutter collection, baking madeleines, things like that, or chocolate hazelnut biscotti. So this counter gets a lot of work for us over the holidays. As you can see, we keep our cookbooks nearby, close at hand. And also, this is the time of year where the food that we've harvested throughout the year starts to get eaten. So this is our canning shelf where we keep a lot of the canned goods that we've canned kind of throughout the year. That's kind of a fun passion project, has been learning how to can and preserve foods and put those away for the winter.
So we decorate every room for the holiday because we like to shuffle people throughout our space to enjoy every aspect of the home. So we'll set up like a champagne tower in the library, which is, I think that's super fun. And then we do a cookie bar and our outdoor bar, which is a new thing because we just implemented that space. And then we really deck out the dining room for like a Christmas Eve dinner that Kevin cooks, usually like a prime rib roast and goes all out.
We think it's important during the holidays, especially when we host folks, we think it's really important for the space to feel comfortable and have a little bit of that kind of magic. So, you know, we really try in every space. Kemp really does a great job of decorating and adding little touches so that our guests kind of notice and feel welcome.
I think we just go off of like what we would want to perceive for Christmas time. Like, what's the home that we would want to be spending time in? What's going to make our friends and family feel comfortable and just enjoy the season with us?
And on the outside of the house, it's always important that we have the best decorated house for the holidays. Outside, I love to put the lights up outside. It's a labor of love for sure.
I don't like putting the lights up outside, but I like them when they're done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now we're going to take you into our breakfast room, which is all decorated for the holidays.
So the breakfast room is also one of my favorite rooms in the house. I just think it's so cozy, and I love it at Christmas time. I love to put wreaths in the windows with just like this very classic touches of red. And then along the top, it's filled with a bunch of old books. And then I just loosely strung pine garland around the perimeter of the room, and it just makes it feel so cozy for Christmas. And I also hand painted a landscape mural in this room. And I think it looks good any time of year because I think it could be interpreted as fresh greens in the summer or maybe pines in the winter. And so we love to sit in this room. And this is also, everyone comes in this Dutch door off to the side. So this is usually the landing space for gifts or desserts. And it's right off of our formal dining room. So this is a great place to do a dessert table. So last year we did a dessert bar in here, and usually the way that we set it up is on cake pedestals. I have a big collection of cake pedestals that probably came out of an old patisserie, and so we stack them, and also I leave some empty in case someone brings cookies or a pie, and then they don't feel like intimidated to leave their stuff somewhere. I can easily take it and transition it into everything that we already have built, so it just makes sense and flows. But I love to do it that way. I love tying little ribbons onto the cake pedestals and layering it in that way. And it's so, it's just a good greeting when you come into the side door to see it set up that way. And now we're gonna take you into our formal dining room that we've set up for our Christmas Eve dinner. So welcome to our formal dining room for the holidays. This is how we would set up this space for our Christmas Eve dinner that we host each year. We usually host it in the evening after Christmas Mass, and I love it to just feel like old-fashioned Christmas. I feel like we have such a large dining room that this is how this space was intended to be set up. Very formal this way. I handcrafted these orange topiaries, which took me a minute. But I love them, again, on my collection of glass antique cake pedestals. And I think that they really ground the table. And then I did little sprigs of rosemary that I keep in pots in the basement this time of year, some boxwood from our shrubbery, and then some cranberries mixed in. And then I topped it with some more of that like cranberry red ribbon that I've done in the other parts of the house. And then I also tied it into the chandelier up above by putting just little bows around the brass chandelier. And I think it looks so cozy and ties everything together. And then we also did a deal with Williams-Sonoma a couple years ago. They sponsored our Christmas table, so we just dressed the table in those Williams-Sonoma dishes with the little cranberries and pine cones. I love to do a little salt cellar at each place setting. I think is really important so people don't feel like they have to ask for it. It's just right there at each table, half salt, half pepper. And then another fun thing that I love to do is to flank the table with these antique silver urns as a bottle rest. So each side of the table gets one that they can pass down each side. I just think it's fun, and it looks so formal that way when you walk in. In keeping with the table behind me, we have this collection of ironstone and wedgwood hung on the wall. And I also tied in more of that cranberry red, and then all of these tureens surrounded with these, the cedar pine. I think that this also is in keeping with the table, the fruit topiary lamps with the fruit topiary on the table. And this is just one of the best places to host a big dinner. And this table can also be extended to seat up to about 12 people. And then over on this side of the room, we have this big china hutch. Then it's faux pine, but then I mixed in some real cedar branches from a tree that we have in the back. And it just looks really full and very festive. And up above are more of our cake pedestals. And a lot of people on Instagram have said I collect just to collect, but we use these items. I pull out these cake pedestals to use for the holidays or a birthday, and maybe I'll host a wedding one day and I'll use all those pedestals for it. And then back here, our collection of silver. I love it on this table that we chopped in half. We needed a little landing space over here if you were gonna serve some things, because obviously that tabletop over there is covered, but this pulls up and then we can set, if we wanted to set our Thanksgiving turkey or the roast for Christmas Eve, this is a great place to do that. And then a dream of mine has always been to set this up as a caviar bar and do little caviar in these seashells and have them on ice over here. I think would be really nice. And then just some more pomegranates with the cedar mixed in. But it looks just really cozy. So another piece that we just recently brought home is this narrow settee and this beautiful cocoa cover that I had the idea to put it along one side of the table, and the length just worked out perfectly. And I think it's such a cozy, inviting spot for people to join us for our Christmas Eve dinner here.
And now we're going to take you out to the Carriage house, which is all decorated for Christmas.
So welcome to what we're calling the Carriage house on our property. This used to be an old potting shed, and this past summer we converted this into a bar, which is really fun. And you can see on the outside here, our craftsman friend Tim replicated our porch pediment from our 1940 front porch and recreated it over these beautiful French doors. And I'm so excited to show you inside. So the last time we showed our house for you guys, we did not even have this space in the works. This wasn't, like I said, it was an old potting shed, and it faces the patio, but there was just one door off to my left here. So we took that out and completely changed the room's orientation to open up to our outdoor patio. And since we do have a really small kitchen, we really wanted an island or a landing space that we could serve buffet style year round. So we turned this into a 4-season room. We insulated, heated, drywalled. We even opened up the ceiling and put in faux beams. We wanted the vibe to feel like it's our Carriage house. So in keeping with that, we did some lantern pendants, did some very natural materials. Old Brazil roadblock is our flooring that we laid down. We shaved those bricks in half. I think over 100 bricks we shaved in half, and it took days and days. And then we laid them in a basket weave pattern along the floor. And then as far as coloration goes, I wanted it to feel very moody, very like speakeasy, but Carriage housey at the same time. So we did a really moody, deep chocolate color on the walls and a really pretty sort of satin sheen to make it feel, I wanted it to feel kind of like a jewel box too when you open it up and walk into it. And then we did our little deer friend here, and when we hung him, I instantly envisioned him with a big Christmas wreath around him for this time of year.
Welcome to our Christmas cookie buffet. We wanted to do something a little unique this year. So here we have some gingerbread men and other gingerbread cookies. Additionally, our very good friend Stephanie got us these Christmas tree cookie cutters to make beautiful Christmas trees that we iced and then decorated with these little pearl sprinkles. We also have an assortment of regular cookies, and we made chocolate covered gingerbread cookies shaped like stars and like moons. Those are both vintage Martha Stewart cookie cutters from her Martha by Mail catalog that we found while antiquing. And last but not least, we have a big bowl of real authentic eggnog. It's full of flavor, it's so delicious, it's great to have in the cold time of year.
And I love it displayed in this, I don't even know what this copper vat was, but I love it displayed in this, and then we just lined it with a stainless bowl that we could put the eggnog in, and then we put it on a copper tray with the little eggnog mugs. So this can also be utilized as a full bar. So one thing that I wanted to do was to create a cocktail menu, which is probably my favorite part of it. And I leather bound it, and I made a little logo that's got our pediment from the front, and we named it the Carriage House. And inside is a whole crafted cocktail menu that's modeled after the 1920s and Prohibition and all that fun stuff. It's like a quirky little take on a cocktail menu, and I had so much fun putting this together. And then this is also a really cool party trick when people come over, is to pass out these menus. And then this is what the nuts are for if you wanted to partake in cookies or you want to come in and have a cocktail. These nuts and this little squirrel nutcracker down there are also really fun too, to just sit and have a drink.
To me, the holidays mean family and good food and spending a little time to kind of slow down and relax and be present in the moment.
Yeah, I would say the holidays to me obviously mean family and friends, and then just creating beauty through decoration. I think that it's fun. It gives you a chance to, for me, it gives me a chance to experiment and set up the house in a different way. And especially this time of year when it's, you know, it's kind of cold and gloomy out, it's just nice to have like a beautifully lit and decorated space to be in.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.